Do you have a paranormal encounter you'd like to share with us? Send us an email with your story for a chance of it being featured on Weird World. From a group of teenagers' eerie run-in with an archaic pub in the woods, to a young American hiker's incredible encounter with samurai warriors in the mountains of Japan, to the peculiar case of a vanishing Georgian estate in Rougham, Suffolk, the following are three more sincere and compelling accounts that demonstrate the fascinating and mysterious phenomenon of time slips. Tudor pub in the woods. In the warm golden light of a Sunday afternoon in the summer of 1978, 15-year-old Maggie Larson and her friends set out on a leisurely walk along the riverbank in their small Staffordshire town. The group, consisting of Maggie, her friend Stephanie of the same age, and two neighbourhood boys, James and William, aged 17 and 18 respectively, had no particular destination in mind. They simply wanted to enjoy the nice weather and each other's company. As the sun beat down on them, the friends began to feel the heat and thirst take their toll. Seeking relief, they ventured into a nearby wooded area, resting in the cool shade provided by the leafy canopy above. Little did they know that this seemingly innocuous decision would lead them on an extraordinary journey. Emerging from the woods into a clearing, the group was surprised to find an old stone public house. The building was unlike any they had seen in their area, with its low thatched roof and quaint appearance. Intrigued, they approached the wooden bench outside and took a moment to rest. Counting their coins, they realised they should have enough to purchase a drink inside. James and William, feeling adventurous, decided on beer, and the group made their way into the pub. As they passed through the entrance, Maggie was struck by the unique atmosphere within. The wood-planked floor creaked beneath their feet, and the small-paned windows allowed shafts of sunlight to stream through, illuminating the specks of dust in the air. The interior was bathed in an ethereal greenish haze, intensifying its sense of otherworldliness. Two men sat on a crude bench beside a thick wooden table, seemingly lost in their own thoughts. An old man with a pipe was positioned by a massive fireplace, where a roaring fire crackled despite the warm weather outside. Interestingly, all of these patrons seemed to be wearing old-fashioned cloaks. Maggie found this peculiar, but her attention was quickly drawn to the bar, where James and William had approached to place their order. To their surprise, the barman, who seemed to be wearing some sort of an archaic tunic, appeared dazed and unresponsive, as if he couldn't comprehend their request for beer and lemonade. He stood motionless, mouth agape, clutching a metal tankard in his hand. Undeterred, James pointed to a small cask at the bar and asked for 4 ciders instead. The barman, still seemingly in a trance, reached for 4 battered pewter tankards hanging above his head and poured the cider. When asked about the cost, he simply shook his head and waved them away, leaving the group to enjoy their unexpected treat. The cider was strong, no doubt illegal for their age, but the friends savoured it nonetheless. They quickly finished their drinks, placed the cups on the bar, and expressed their gratitude before making their way back out into the sunlight. Looking back, Maggie realised that the other patrons had never acknowledged their presence, nor made eye contact with them. The pub itself was basic and rustic, consisting of only 1 or 2 small rooms with a low roof and large oak beams. Despite the odd experience, the group felt refreshed and began their journey home. The following week, on another picturesque summer day, Maggie and her friends decided to retrace their steps and revisit the mysterious pub. They walked for miles, venturing almost to the next town, but to their astonishment, they could find no trace of the small wood or the pub. They searched the area over several weekends, scouring the landscape for any sign of the building or its surroundings, but their efforts proved fruitless. There were no ruins, stones, nor stumps to indicate that a wood or a pub had ever existed in that location. Determined to unravel the mystery, Maggie even visited the local library, poring over old maps in hopes of finding some record of the pub's existence. However, her search yielded no results, leaving her and her friends with more questions than answers. It has been over 45 years since that mystifying summer afternoon, and Maggie has never shared this story with anyone during that time. The memory of that day remains vivid in her mind, only reinforcing to her the extraordinary nature of their experience. Did Maggie and her friends unknowingly stumble upon a portal through time? Could they have traversed a wormhole, finding themselves in an era long past? It has been speculated that the pub, with its low thatched roof, thick wooden beams, pewter tankards, and inhabitants dressed in cloaks and tunics, might have originated from the Tudor or early Stuart era, sometime between the 15th and 17th centuries. These characteristics were typical of buildings, drinking vessels, and attire from that period. It is unlikely to have been from the 18th century or later, as tunics had fallen out of favour by then. Large pane windows were widely in use, and brick and stone construction had become more predominant than timber framing. However, given the barman had such difficulty understanding them, this might imply the 15th century or perhaps even an earlier period. Mountain samurai. In the summer of 1976, a 23-year-old American man named Colin Fletcher embarked on a solo hiking trip in the mountains of southern Japan. Born on April 3, 1953, in Greensboro, North Carolina, Colin had always been fascinated by Japanese culture and history, which led him to explore the country's stunning landscapes. As he made his way through the lush green forests and along the winding mountain trails, Colin found himself lost in thought, immersed in the tranquility of his surroundings. Suddenly, an extraordinary sight caught his attention, causing him to freeze in his tracks. Before him, hundreds of samurai warriors emerged from the dense foliage, their armour glinting in the sunlight and their swords at the ready. Colin watched in awe as the warriors marched purposefully through the mountainside. As he observed the scene more closely, Colin noticed that some of the samurai were carrying injured comrades on their backs. The young hiker found himself unable to move, transfixed by the incredible spectacle unfolding before his eyes. Minutes passed, and as quickly as they had appeared, the samurai vanished into the depths of the forest, leaving Colin alone with his thoughts and the rustling of leaves in the breeze. Shaken and perplexed by what he had witnessed, Colin returned to the United States, eager to share this incredible story with others. However, when he recounted his experience to family and friends, Colin was met with scepticism and disbelief. His loved ones, unable to fathom the possibility of such an occurrence, dismissed his tale as a figment of his imagination or a result of exhaustion from his arduous hike. Despite the ridicule and doubt he faced, Colin remained steadfast in his conviction that what he had seen was real. Known for his serious and honest nature, he was not the type to engage in jokes or tall tales, especially about something so profound and deeply personal. As the years passed, Colin's family continued to tease him about his alleged samurai sighting, often bringing up the story at gatherings and family events. Yet Colin never wavered in his account, his memory of the event remaining as clear as ever. The true nature of Colin Fletcher's experience remains a mystery. However, many have speculated that it was a time slip. Rougham Phantom Estate. In the quiet village of Rougham, Suffolk, England, a series of mysterious events unfolded, leaving the residents baffled and intrigued. The first incident occurred on a crisp October day in 1926, when Miss Ruth Wynne, a dedicated teacher at the local school, decided to take a leisurely walk with one of her pupils, a young girl named Elizabeth, towards a neighbouring village of Bradfield St George. As they neared the church of Bradfield, an imposing sight caught their attention. Before them stood a grand Georgian house, surrounded by high walls and adorned with intricate wrought iron gates. The building itself was partially obscured by a veil of tall trees that stood within the confines of the walls. Miss Wynne and Elizabeth marvelled at the magnificent structure, wondering about its history and the occupants who called it home. Months passed and the memory of the grand house lingered in their minds. It wasn't until the following spring that Miss Wynne and Elizabeth found the opportunity to retrace their steps and revisit the spot where they had encountered the impressive residence. However, as they approached the location, an eerie realisation dawned upon them. The grand estate that had captivated their imagination had vanished without a trace. Perplexed and unsettled, both teacher and pupil confirmed their sighting in detailed reports to Sir Ernest Bennett, the esteemed Labour MP. But this was not the first time the Phantom House had made its presence known in Rougham. Approximately 14 years earlier, on a warm June day in 1912, a young boy named James Cobbold was assisting the local butcher, George Waylett, with deliveries. The two set out on their journey, traversing the streets of Rougham in a pony and trap. As they travelled along Kingshall Street, an unusual phenomenon occurred. The air around them suddenly turned cold, and a loud, eerie whoosh filled their ears. The pony, sensing an otherworldly presence, reared up in terror, throwing George Waylett from the cart. In that brief moment, a stunning sight materialised before their eyes. A 3-storied Georgian house, complete with a well-manicured garden and elaborate flower beds, appeared out of nowhere. James Cobbold, his heart racing, couldn't believe what he was witnessing. The house seemed to shimmer and waver, as if it existed in a realm beyond their own. Before they could comprehend the gravity of the situation, a thick mist enveloped the house, and as quickly as it had appeared, it vanished into thin air. George Waylett, visibly shaken, scrambled to his feet. With a mixture of frustration and bewilderment, he exclaimed, "That bloody house! That's about the 3rd time I've seen that happen." News of the Phantom House spread like wildfire through the village of Rougham. Residents gathered in hushed circles, sharing their own stories and speculations about the mysterious structure. Some claimed to have caught fleeting glimpses of the house over the years, while others dismissed the tales as mere folklore and superstition. Despite the passage of time, the mystery of the Phantom House of Rougham has remained unsolved. Countless theories have been put forward, ranging from ghostly apparitions and residual hauntings to dimensional portals and time slips.